guys, Austin here. Welcome to the video, and today I'm going to be going over the top 6 exercises, in my opinion, that are the best for building both strength and muscle. And so just a disclaimer, I'm not saying these are the best exercises ever. There are definitely better exercises out there, but I think these should be like your bread and butter. The majority of the programs out there that you'll see should have these exercises. If not, then they're likely not as optimal. But also at the same time, these are exercises that are not like must do. I think when trying to build a program, the top 3 things that one should look at is how effective is this exercise towards your goal. For example, if you're a power lifter, then you definitely want to focus on the deadlift, squat, and bench, and obviously you're going to have to program these 3 because specificity. The more you train and exercise, the better you will get at it. But if your goals are more for something else, you have to best be able to translate whatever that exercise can help you towards your personal goals. But I think for the average person that's just trying to feel better, look better, get stronger, feel stronger, these are the top 6 exercise recommendations that I make. Another consideration that I think you should take into account when trying to build a program is, do you enjoy the exercise? Because I think the more you enjoy an exercise, the more likely you're going to follow your program and do it longer and then see more progress that way. If you don't enjoy your exercise, then you're not going to try as hard, you're not going to make that progress that you're looking for, and you're just going to be going through the motions in the gym and you're just not going to be doing anything really. And the third recommendation that I consider when trying to build a program is, are there compound movements in there? So compound movements are defined as exercises that recruit multiple muscles during the exercise or the movement itself. And the reason for this being is that compound movements are going to recruit more muscles, so you kind of get a more bang for your buck, to say. You're able to build more muscle just doing one exercise rather than doing a bunch of different exercises trying to get that same amount of muscle activation. For example, we'll take a look at the squat. So from top down, your body is trying to keep stable through your torso, so you have your core activation, back muscles, all the way down to your hips, and then your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves. They're all trying to work together and trying to stabilize and create that motion of the squat itself. And so obviously picking the squat over, let's say, leg extensions, which only isolates the quads, you definitely want to be picking an exercise that works more muscles. That way you don't have to be doing more exercises and you can kind of save time and energy and be able to do more things with your time that you saved. If you see any program that just includes a bunch of like simple exercises that only work one muscle, then you should definitely trash that, because doing more compound movements are definitely more beneficial for you. Also, looking at it at a more functional perspective, I hate using that word functional because functional could mean so many things to different people. But in a functional perspective, you're never using just one muscle. If you think about it, how often are you just doing a bicep curl by itself? Most of the time when you go through these huge ranges of motion, you're using multiple muscles. So obviously you want to train your body to be able to coordinate multiple muscles to move at the same time, and these can translate better to your everyday activities or even sports or just another one of your goals. But the main point is that your body works as a giant system of multiple muscles, and you're never just using just one muscle to do a single movement unless it's like a simple task. For the majority of the time, you're using multiple muscles to do lots of things. And without further ado, let's get into it. And again, I'm not saying these are the be-all end-all exercises. Like, you don't have to include these exercises in your routine or else your routine is trash. But these are generally the best exercises. You'll find these in most programs that you'll find online. These exercises will train a lot of different muscles as well as a lot of different movement patterns that are more quote-unquote functional. Like I said before, I don't really like to use the word functional, but it's able to mimic a lot of the movement patterns that you'll go throughout your life and be able to strengthen those muscles accordingly. And so the first exercise that we have is the deadlift. So a lot of people like to say that deadlift is the king of all exercises, and there's a reason for that, because it works nearly every single muscle in your body. Just having to be able to pick up a weight off the floor, you're engaging a lot of your core muscles, your back muscles. Just everything needs to be working together to help stabilize and pick up a object off the floor. And so the main muscles that this exercise works is your posterior chain, and what that is defined as is posterior meaning the back, and chain, meaning just the chain of muscles along your back. So it works primarily your back muscles and then your hips, glutes, hamstrings. And so this is a very good exercise for building those muscles specifically. It works a lot of other muscles individually, not so much, but those are like the primary targets of this exercise. It's also very functional in a way because if you think about it, you have to pick up stuff off the ground all the time. And so this is a very good exercise to help teach you how to brace properly when you're picking up, let's say, a box. So yeah, the deadlift is a very good exercise, definitely a staple in a lot of weightlifting programs. And so next exercise we have up is the squat. And so this is another full body exercise. People don't really realize it, but the squat is actually a full body exercise because you have to load weight on top of your back. Whether you're doing the front squat or the back squat, you have to load a weight on top of yourself, and you have to be stabilizing that weight and then performing the squat movement, obviously. And so this requires a lot of torso stabilization as well as leg stabilization. And then, of course, performing the squat movement itself, you have to be stabilized and be able to perform the movement at the same time. And so the main muscles worked during the squat are the quads and the glutes. Also, the squat is a very unique exercise in that it's able to train both leg extension, so that's straightening your legs, as well as hip extension, so that's like think of it as like a hip thrust, and combining both of those movements at the same time. It's a very powerful movement. It's very good for athleticism and just everyday movement as well. And if you think about it, everyone around the world has done a squat at some point. Every time you sit down, every time you get back up, that's a squat. So this is obviously a very good functional movement and is able to recruit a lot of muscles at the same time. So definitely another good staple to include in your routine. And so the next exercise that we have up is a vertical push. And so what do I mean by this? And so pushing, think about pushing and then adding a vertical component. So pushing. So in simple terms, a vertical pushing motion is most shoulder exercise movements. Vertical pushing motions not only build good shoulders that everyone is looking for, but also it helps you be able to lift objects overhead. So it's also a very good functional movement in the fact that anything you have to lift overhead, anytime you have to lift something overhead, it's very good in helping you perform that motion. Also keeps your shoulders healthy. Being able to move your arms overhead, it's a very good motor pattern to be able to keep. I'd say shoulder problems are definitely a good majority of a lot of the issues that older adults have, and so being able to train this vertical push motion is very essential if you want to be able to do this in the long term and also maintain your joint health and all that. And so the next exercise that we have up is the horizontal push. So first we had vertical, now we have horizontal. So like this. So horizontal pushing usually includes a lot of bench pressing, push-ups, any type of exercise where you're primarily using your chest, your front shoulder, and your triceps. So other than being able to build a massive chesticle like Arnold, the horizontal push is also another very functional movement in that you're able to push things forward. Think about in athletics, you're trying to push a sled, or you just need to push something in general. Maybe you're trying to move stuff and push things on a wheel or cart. Alright, and so for the next set of movements, now that we're done with all the pushing, we need to be able to build some sort of balance and counteract that motion. So now we have the pulling motions. And so first up we have a vertical pull. And when you think about vertical pulling motions, these includes things like pull-ups, lat pull-downs, and other exercises like that. And so personally, I find that pulling motions are definitely a lot more important than pushing motions, because I find that as humans, we are definitely more focused on things that are in front of us rather than in back of us, because we look forward. So we pay attention to things that are more in front of us rather than behind us. So for this reason, a lot of people kind of neglect their backside. But pulling motions are definitely very important because they help stabilize the muscles that are pushing by keeping your body balanced. And another component of the vertical pull is that it trains your lats. And if you've ever seen a human anatomy chart, you'll find that the lats are literally the entire back. They go from around your shoulder blade all the way down to your lower back. So they take up a huge real estate area on your back. And so they are primarily what gives you kind of that V taper if you're looking for that. And then for the horizontal pulling motion, so now we have horizontal pulling. So think of any type of row, and this will kind of lump into the category of horizontal pulling. And so I'm just going to combine vertical and horizontal pulling into this discussion. So the reason I think that pulling motions are very essential is because most people, if you look at your average person, they're sitting in an office typing, and so their shoulders are going to be rounded forward, and so they're kind of just like in this hunch position all day, every day. And especially if you're not performing a lot of exercise as well, you'll kind of get stuck in this position. So pulling motions are very good at helping you correct that imbalance. And so pulling motions are going to help pull your shoulder blades back and down and kind of help you correct that muscle imbalance and better your joint health and your posture. Also, a lot of the issues that arise from people's shoulder problems is just because of a muscle imbalance around their shoulder blades or around the shoulder joint here. And so a lot of the upper body movements that people perform, people only think about like the large, big muscles that you can see, but not about all those tiny little muscles around your shoulder blades that actually help stabilize the shoulder blade and keep it in place, keep it balanced. And so this is why I think people should focus more on exercising a certain type of movement rather than a certain muscle. Because as I said before, your body works through large ranges of motions by recruiting a lot of different muscles rather than recruiting a single muscle. Like if when you're doing a bench press, your body is not just using the chest and going like, it recruits a lot of different muscles to help stabilize, to help you perform that one motion. If you think about it in athletics, someone throwing a ball overhead, they're not just using a single muscle throwing a ball like that. They are recruiting their shoulders, trying to bring their arm overhead and then move through that entire range of motion. And so that about wraps it up. These are my top 6 exercises to help someone build muscle and strength. And again, I'm not saying these are the be all end all. Let's say if you hate doing a deadlift, then you definitely don't have to do a deadlift. You can pick exercises that target those specific muscles, but I'm just saying that these exercises are kind of the most bang for your buck. These recruit the most amount of muscles, so you don't have to do as much work in the gym. But if you prefer to do more work, if you prefer to do more exercises in recruiting those same amount of muscles, then by all means go for it. Also, I think these exercises train a movement rather than certain muscles, and it's better to build that motor pattern to be able to move through a certain range of motion in a certain way that you want, that helps you be more functional, helps you be more fit, helps you be more healthy, rather than just training certain muscles to look good. And also another thing that you maybe have noticed is that these are all compound movements. I didn't really include accessories. And as I said before, I highly recommend these exercises as kind of your bread and butter in the gym. You definitely want to be doing these exercises first before all your other isolation exercises because they recruit such a high amount of muscles. You don't want to fatigue a certain muscle part before you're heading into these exercises. And then isolation exercises are just kind of like your icing on top. They're mainly used for just extra volume if you have a lagging body part that you want to be able to build more, or you find that a certain muscle part is more weak or just smaller and you just want to be able to build that more. But yeah, this video was just kind of like a brief overview of the top exercises that I think people should be including in their program. I will be going more in depth about trying to build a weightlifting program and how to like structure your workouts, but that's for another video. But this was just kind of a brief overview of what I recommend that people include in their programs. But yeah, like this video if you learned something that you could apply to your everyday life. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.